whakawā.
I call Marama Fox.
I te mana whakawā, the Māori Party rises today in support of the first reading of the Countering Terrorist Fighters legislation bill. But let me make it quite clear. From the outset, our support in subsequent stages is conditional on our concerns being addressed. We agree that all parties should participate in the debate about how best to deal with the evolving threat posed by foreign terrorist fighters. But let us first take the issue of war on terror to our own homes. It is only appropriate that on this White Ribbon Day, we consider the horrendous impact of violence wreaked upon far too many families and homes in this beautiful land of ours. On average, 14 women are killed every year.
Order.
We must put a stop to this behaviour by demonstrating leadership. One of our own party stalwarts passed away just days ago as she journeyed to join the White Ribbon Ride.
No, order. For your benefit, this is a debate on another subject, and I'll ask the member to come back and just focus on that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to draw the parallels between violence away and violence at home. The violence at home, we feel that this piece of legislation may have impact on the injustices that we see upon our own people, Māori, in this country, if we approve the surveillance and the warrants being heaped out without due consideration. We already see in this country that Māori are 50% more likely to be prosecuted, they're 50% more likely to be sentenced, they're 50% more likely to have longer sentences for the same crime as non-Māori in this country. We are concerned about that sort of racial profiling in regards to this piece of legislation. Hence, we wanted to make the correlation between violence in our own country and violence overseas. And first, let us deal with what's happening here. We think that this piece of legislation will have an impact on our people. As I've pointed out, we only achieve confidence if we ask the affected people and involve them in solutions to those issues. We ask, how will this occur in such a reduced time for public involvement with the shortened select committee period? We are greatly concerned about the impact of the bill to make it possible to render a person stateless by cancelling their passport. We want to be clear about the practice of accountabilities and transparencies around these decisions. One of the issues raised by the Human Rights Commission is that a basic premise of any measure to address terrorism is that they should not be discriminatory. Their advice raises the issue of ethnic profiling, stereotyping, founded on the grounds of discrimination. And I think we need to pause and recall the horror in 2001. We all have been affected and scarred by that, but what happened was that the fear of Indigenous populations who refused to be silent about their concerns at home were viewed, if not as terrorists, then at least as traitors who were weakening the war effort. In a monograph produced by Dr. Joanna Kidman, she stated that the issues of national loyalty and cultural allegiance quickly became a question of where people sat on the axis of evil. That is, the forces of anti-civilization. In Australia, academics suspected of moral equivocation about terrorism were named and shamed in Parliament. Legislation in the United States, Britain and Australia all aim to identify people who are presumed to be dangerous or antisocial or who posed a threat to the American, British or Australian way of life. The enemy within became interpreted as the ethnic minorities and asylum speakers.
1 minute.
Of course, there is well-known and public linkage that has been made in our own jurisdiction about supposed association between Māori activism and terrorist activity. We do not want a repeat of Operation 8. We do not want to fuel a fire of hate speech that too frequently emerges from any concentration of terrorism associated with particular religions, nationalities or civilizations. We have concerns that a reduction of the controls around warrants and an increase of power in regards to surveillance and the removal of passports may negatively impact on the life of Māori already suffering injustice in this country. E te mana whakawā. We have strong and heartfelt concerns about the possible implications of this bill, but we also believe it is irresponsible to take a stand without hearing from those New Zealanders who take up the call on human rights on our behalf. We support the first reading to enable that kōrero to happen. Kia ora.